Hi everyone, this is our second IHA live event, and we are very excited to have Dr. Vicki Johanneck here with us tonight. As you know, the IHA is focused on relationship-based horsemanship, and as an organization, we want to help our members with relationships with their horses, but also with people. So Dr. Vicki is going to help us with that tonight. A couple of things that we would like to talk about is that if you are not already a member, we are producing a quarterly magazine full of wonderful information about relationship-based horsemanship, and the grades of horsemanship have now been published and are ready to help you train your horse. We are at the IHA helping to create a language for everyone to use, free of copyright. Check it out, and it will help you with your journey with your horse. We also have a raffle going on for an oil painting done by one of our members, Katie Troyer. The painting will be of your horse. Katie is very talented, so check it out on the website to buy raffle tickets. In addition to the portrait, we are also giving away an IHA hard copy membership, which will include an IHA hat, pin, shirt, a copy of the magazine, and access to all of the fabulous membership benefits available on the website, including the grades of horsemanship and our learning management system. Please forgive the audio here this evening. We actually had to go re-record it after the live event because the live event audio did not function properly. So if there's a few words that don't match up with my mouth, that's why. So without further ado, many of you already know Dr. Vicki. She is a lifetime member of the IHA. She is also a board-certified coach, as well as an emotional health and well-being specialist. She has a Doctorate of Clinical Psychology and a Master's of Divinity degree. That is a lot of learning, and we are going to have access to some of that information tonight. Dr. Vicki's goal as a coach is to inspire and empower her clients with experiences that offer more joyful living through enhancement of dynamic relationships. Sounds like she fits well into the IHA, and we are so happy to have her here tonight. So, I'm not going to say any more. Take it away, Vicki.
Okay. Well, the first thing I want to do tonight is start out with a quick little exercise. So I'm going to hold up a picture, and I would like everybody to key into the comments what they see when they look at this picture. Some of you may have done this before. And then Isabelle, if you can let me know what everyone is seeing.
Okay, so everyone type in what you see in the picture in the comments.
So what I can do, are we getting any comments?
Yes, the comments are starting to show up.
Good.
So far, Vicki, we have a younger lady, an older lady, a lady facing away, a young woman, a woman looking away, another old lady,
Awesome.
old lady face, lady with a fur coat and hat, Ada says she sees both at the same time.
Well, that's great. That's great. Okay, I'm going to
Thanks, everyone.
set this down now. So I wanted to start that out. I know some people have probably done that before, but I am going to be reading a little bit from my notes tonight. So I wanted to start this out because we're going to talk a little bit about emotional intelligence and what it is and how we can use it in our relationships and with ourselves, with each other, and with our horses too, of course. And one of the things with emotional intelligence is that we're going to be talking a little bit about neuroscience, which means that we'll spend some time talking about our brain as well. Then we'll do a little exercise to get a taste of how we can work with one of our feelings to begin to stretch our emotional intelligence. So going back to that opening exercise, it looks like some people saw the old woman and some people saw the young woman. Ada, of course, saw both. She has that young, flexible brain. When I first saw that picture, I myself could only see the old woman. I, for the life of me, could not see that young woman. I had to actually have someone point out, where it was. And so I am just going to do that in case anybody was in the same position as me. The old woman, this is her nose. This is her nose and her mouth and her chin. And then the young woman is facing this way, and the nose of the old lady is also the chin of the young lady. And so then she's wearing a choker, just to make sure if there's anybody out there that was like me. And there's a couple of other these pictures floating around where you can see two things on there and things like that. And for me, I remember I had the hardest time working with our brain and emotional intelligence. It can be learned and it can be improved. And it just takes a lot of awareness and openness and practice and a willingness to work at it and just do things differently.
So, Vicki, can you explain a little bit more about your background and how you got interested in the topic of emotional intelligence and the neuroscience behind it?
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, I have a doctorate in clinical psychology and a Master of Divinity degree. And along the way, while I was earning those degrees, I had the opportunity to work in several interesting and challenging places. For my psychology degree, I completed a pre-doctoral internship in a maximum security prison, and I worked for a year with incarcerated men who were 85% in there for aggravated violent assault and 50% for murder. And then my postdoctoral work was done at Community Mental Health Center, working with court-ordered domestic violence perpetrators, as well as groups and individual clients, and working with different issues. Then I also worked with chemical dependency and pain management areas of mental health in the Veterans Administration system, as well as several adolescents in several inpatient treatment settings. For my ministry degree, I was a ministry intern in a 3-member congregation metro church. So after I completed all that work and looked at all those degrees and processed all of those experiences, as you can only imagine, those are some pretty influential things to my life. And the one thing that kept coming back to me and kept showing up was my underlying belief that life is all about relationships and it's all about emotions. And to me, it seems like if you can work with your emotions, we will have good relationships, at home, at work, with strangers, with the environment, with our animals, and so on. Because so many times I saw people that over and over again had difficulty working with their emotions, and it had, or maybe the emotions of others, and it got in their way. It got in the way of their relationships and their decisions, or maybe it might cause them to lean on the wrong people to help them to make decisions. So it might not be, the best decision for them. And I know for me personally, um, I'm like everybody else in the world. I haven't gotten to be, where this age without having made a few mistakes along the way. And it seems to me as I think back on it, my very worst mistakes that I made in my life were because I let my decisions, be taken over my emotions. And so I had that happen a couple times, and I just decided, well, I need to do some work, and I need to figure out, what I need to change to be more in control to make my life a little simpler. But of course, life isn't that easy. It's not as simple as fix our emotions and our life will be perfect. I wish it was that easy, but then again, that's where the work is involved. Um, Looking back, one of my favorite classes in school was brain anatomy. Of course, I didn't know I liked it that much at the time. I still remember going in for that little weekly test. Okay, today we're going to test on this part of the brain and that part of the brain. But after I got out of school and I started working with people, I was kind of fascinated then about how their emotions, their relationships, how it ties into brain chemistry, and how when we make changes, it changes our brain, and it just became more and more fascinating to me. So I'm really interested in it now. So that's part of my education background, things like that. But there's another part that led to my journey to being here too, and that was my own personal journey with our horses. In 2012, my husband and I opened up an American saddlebred training facility, and we were doing great. We had a professional trainer, did between 75 and 100 lessons a month. We had training horses.
Wow.
Wow. I mean, it was busy and it was crazy, and the thing was, it just wasn't, it wasn't what I wanted.
Mm.
I wanted a relationship with all these wonderful, beautiful horses, and I was spending too much time in my office. And so, after a lot of soul searching and talks between my husband and I, we just decided, okay, well, we're going to go private. And so we went private. And so then all those horses now became our responsibility. And it was kind of one of those things where it's okay, be careful what you ask for, because now we have, you know, 10 horses in the barn, all these fancy show horses, and now we're responsible for them. So what I had to find out and work through, as I was learning how to do that, was that in order to have my relationship with these horses, I now had to learn to be a stronger and better me for the horses, and of course it goes over into your relationships as well. But I had to, become stronger physically. I had to learn to, I've had a couple of different people tell me, oh, you need to slow your energy down. You need to be calm. You need to not move at such a fast pace, and things like that. So I had to learn how to be a leader, So it's one of those things where it's going to be a constant learning program now, where I keep working on me to help with the relationship with horses, because I believe that if I'm not learning, I'm not growing. And so then earlier in this year, in January, we met Farrah Green. And Farrah Green is the one that helped start me on this fun little path on my journey with my horses, my learning, and the IHA. And so I'm thrilled to be a lifetime member of IHA, and I'm so happy to be here tonight. This is so fun. I have to admit, this little outside my comfort zone, outside my box. When Farrah talked to me, she goes, well, how about you go live online? And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, well, we'll just see. So anyway, I have a lot of information to try and get through tonight. So I think I will just probably dig in and talk a little bit about emotional intelligence.
Just quickly, Vicki, would you mind telling us what motivated you to join the IHA?
Oh, you know what? I think the IHA is wonderful because there are a lot of people like me out there that, are struggling to learn, and the big question is, where do you learn from? There's so many different places to learn, and the internet is a wealth of information, but one of the things when you're going to psychology school, to say you have to learn to discern, where do you get your information, how do you know it's good information, and things like that. And what I like about the IHA is that with the grades of horsemanship, there's the things you can check on, and it gives you step by step, where to learn, what to learn. I just filmed my little video with Farah last week, and I realized that, I could have practiced leading my horse from the right side a little bit. Little things like that. But, it's on the sheet. It's on the sheet. So I've got different things to learn, and it gives me a community. So I mean, it's just fun. I think our daughter Jessie is a lifetime member, and so we just have a great time now. And then I pull up my little sheets and check off, oh, where am I? So no, I'm just
Very cool.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's fun.
Well, let's dig into emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence. Okay, one of my favorite topics. Okay, emotional intelligence is referred to as EI, emotional intelligence, or EQ, emotional intelligence, like quotient, things like that. And a lot of that's great, but a lot of people go, what is that? So I'll give you a quick definition here. It's three-part. It's one, it's our ability to recognize our emotions and the emotions of others. And then two, is to be able to understand what we're feeling and label them correctly. And three, to be able to use that emotional information to guide our thoughts and behaviors and in different environments so that we can achieve our goals. So even though it's two little words, it's a super huge and complicated subject. So it's one of those topics that people like research like to put into models. They put into definitions and models, and so there's not just one definition of emotional intelligence. So I like to go with the one in 1998 when Daniel Goleman introduced emotional intelligence. He suggested there were 5 categories that comprised emotional intelligence. There's self-awareness, and self-awareness is one of the big keys to emotional intelligence. How well do we know ourselves, our emotions, and understand ourselves? 2, self-regulation. How well do we manage and control ourselves and our emotions and our resources and our abilities? And 3, social skills. Once we understand ourselves and we can manage ourselves, then we can start to work with others. 4, empathy, which is understanding another person's perspective, to be able to feel what someone else is feeling, the ability to sense what someone else needs from you. And then 5, which is the one you and I had talked about earlier, Isabelle, was motivation. Our drive to improve and achieve, to commit goals, optimism, resilience, and it also includes personal time management. That one, I think you're the master of that one. But all the theories on emotional intelligence, all the models, they all say the same thing. Emotional intelligence can be learned and it can be improved. No matter how old we are, no matter what we can do, we can all learn to work with our emotions. And what's crazy is that at the same time we're learning to do that, we are actually physically rewiring our brain. So now I'm going to move on to a little bit of example of how we can work with that. How can we learn to work with our brains? So the feeling I picked to talk about is anger. With a lot of the situations I've worked in the past, anger was an issue for a lot of people, so I learned a fair amount about it. So what I'd like everybody to do now, if they have a sheet of paper and a pen handy at all, just sit and write down. We're going to take about 30-45 seconds. Just sit and write down every word you can think of that is, an anger word. Like, let me give you a couple of examples. Like, oh, I know, and I'm going out of order here, aren't I? Oh, well, that's okay.
That's all right.
Yep, that's okay. So, like aggravated, frustrated, pissed off, ticked off. Just write down as many words as you can think of.
Okay, so I will keep a clock in my head. As a dentist, I do this all day, every day, keeping a clock in my head.
Maybe a little bit here.
Yep.
We will give everyone a few minutes of time. I am personally excited that you picked this emotion because my father's fallback emotion was anger. I don't know exactly where it came from, but if he felt the least bit oppositional about something we said, it was anger that came out, and I modeled that emotion. It took me quite a while to stop modeling as an adult. And so, one question that we can save for the end is that what are the steps that people should take to undo this modeling of an emotion that they have developed?
Well, that's perfect. What we're going to do is going to give them an example. Is
Cool.
get everybody an example a little bit. And I think for me, the big thing is awareness. The very first step to anything is awareness. Once we can become aware of what we're thinking, aware of what we're feeling, sometimes both don't come the same, So what we're doing now, we're going to write down our words, and those are the words that we're aware of that come to anger. So we probably had a couple of seconds. So I'd like to find out, anybody doing this exercise, how many words did you come up with?
Okay, so if everyone will type in the number of words they came up with, it will be a lot of fun to see what the total was.
Yeah.
And I guess that is part of two pieces: understanding where your own emotion comes from and understanding what others are feeling.
Well, that's part of self-awareness. As sometimes I think it's important to just be able to name what you're feeling is a good start. If you name what you're feeling, then you can be aware of it. Sometimes, there's usually a thought before the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you can start to become aware of the feeling, then you could go back to, oh, well, what did I just tell myself? And things like that, and start to be aware, of where you are. So
Right.
how many words do people come up with here?
Well, so far I see 3. When I did this exercise last night, I came up with 8. Emily came up with 10. And again, we are so happy to have you all here tonight. Kathy Knight said she came up with 5 words. And that's what we have so far.
Okay, that's great. Because you know what? Here's a list of 60.
60 words. Woo! That is a lot.
That's why it's so important to, and when I sat and read through the list, it's like, yeah, boiling, bristling, burned up, crabby, cranky, huffy, impatient, indignant, infuriated, irate, rage, rage, resentful. You start thinking about it. There is a lot of anger words there. I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but here's what we're going to do is take a look at the list of our words. And so everybody can kind of draw their own little thermometer. This is one that Therapist Aid LLC provided. But if everybody draws a little thermometer, you can take a look at your list of words. Down here at the bottom of the thermometer, this is when you're cool and you're calm and you're all chilled. And so as we go up the thermometer, the intensity increases with whatever words that you put on your list. You can probably look at those words and rank them in intensity. So like you could be irritated, aggravated, frustrated, resentful, moving up here, pissed off. And then when you get to 10, then you could go, boom, my thermometer just broke, and that's one of the things where you can start to recognize, if I'm getting up to here, if I'm getting up to about a 4 or 5, I need to kind of just see what I'm doing so that I don't go up to 10. But what's interesting is there's a psychologist by the name of Dr. Daniel Siegel, and he came up with let me go back. I need to regress a little bit because we're going to cover 3 parts of the brain before we go into his hand model. The 3 parts of the brain that we want to talk about are the brain stem, which is like back here on the back of our neck. And the brainstem controls the flow of messages between the body and the brain, as well as basic functions like breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, etc. Mm-hmm. And then another part of the brain we want to talk about is the amygdala. And the amygdala is a little almond-shaped structure deep inside our brain. There's actually 2 of them, one on each side. They're part of our limbic system. And they are what help detect, fear and threats to our safety. And that's where our fight or flight or freeze kicks in. And then in the front of our head is the prefrontal cortex. And it's like the executive center of our brain. So we have all this information coming in to our brain. And the prefrontal cortex is like the party planner of our brain. It coordinates things and kind of connects each section together and coordinates things. So now Dr. Daniel Siegel actually came up with this hand model of the brain so we could kind of understand how our brain works. And then I'm going to tie it to our Inga thermometer. So if this is my hand, okay, we're going to pretend this hand is my brain. And so the brain stem is coming up the back part of here. And then it comes up around here. This is the prefrontal cortex. So the prefrontal cortex is the planner of our brain and the executive function. And then deep inside our brain, my thumb is the amygdala and part of the limbic system. I really should have 2 amygdalas in there, but I can do it with one hand, so we'll just have to pretend. So what happens is we have all this information coming up our brainstem, going into our brain, and then it can hit the amygdala and the limbic system. And so when we're on our anger thermometer, and that anger thermometer, we're going up, 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 and getting loaded with information. When we hit a 10 and that anger thermometer goes up, blows up, then Dr. Siegel says, well, that's what he calls, we flip our lid. At that point, as soon as we flip our lid, the prefrontal cortex can no longer communicate with the limbic system, the amygdala, or our brainstem. So what we want to do is we've all heard someone say, well, count to 10 before you say anything. There's a very valid reason for that, because what happens is we have all this inflow of information, and it's coming in here, and we want our prefrontal cortex to be able to tell us, just chill. So we count to 10 so that we can kick in this to understand this, so we can learn to respond instead of reacting to information. So that's a quick little brain anatomy, quick little exercise. How do we work with our eager?
That's a great visual.
And I'm sure that
Don't flip your lid.
yeah, flip your lid. I mean, you can Google on YouTube Dr. Dan Siegel and the hand model of the brain, and he gives a much more detailed explanation. We just wanted to touch on it briefly. So, but now, so anyway, so we have covered a lot of territory.
Look out.
So it's been a quick and short run through on of one aspect of working on our emotion, but it can give you all of this can give you a little bit of information on how as we start to work with our emotions, you can there's lots and lots of different things we can do to learn to work with our emotions, to improve our emotional intelligence. We start to recognize what we're feeling, how we're feeling, when we're hitting some points where it might be better just, oh, hang on, give me 5 minutes and I'll come back. Or I know I feel something, but I don't know what I feel. Let me just
where it's
think
coming
about
from.
it. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so much. And so
Right.
that's how we start to grow our emotional intelligence. And the more we become aware of all of that, the more we can be better in our relationships. And, I mean, I've certainly seen people blow up at their horses. And, sometimes you're not always going to get a good response from their horse, so, you just want to keep it calm. So, or teachers with their students or different things like that. So we can all start to learn and grow, increase our emotional intelligence, and, just try and make our lives a little easier, at least so we can communicate a little better. So anyway, I've covered a lot of territory.
So, Vicki, I think what is really interesting is that the best horsemen, some of those horsemen that we know really well, like Buck Brannaman, says the most difficult thing that a horseman has to do is manage his or her own emotions.
I would agree. Yeah, that's so wise.
So it's obvious that emotional intelligence is a really important topic to be a great horseman. And I just wanted you to tell everyone what you are giving away tonight to the people watching, because it's very exciting.
Um, yeah, one of the things I'm going to be doing, after lots of encouragement from Farah, is I am going to be starting a coaching community online. And that'll probably kick off. I know things. It's just going to be a place where we're going to do what we did tonight. I'm not going to do any personal coaching or anything like that in this community. But I am going to be providing information, maybe answering a few questions, things like that. I'll come up with a little topic every week, and we'll just all go on a little bit of a journey together. And so I'm kicking that off September 3rd. And so what I'm going to do, that's going to be a paid subscription community. And I'm going to charge $35 a month for that, for people to be on my coaching community. But what I'm going to do for anyone who watched this webcast tonight, or, between now and September 3rd, whoever, if we get their emails, I will give them 1 month free in my coaching community. And then the other thing yeah, that's okay. We got to start somewhere, right?
That's right.
And so I also have a little quiz on my website that people can take. That it's just a quick little emotional health and wellness quiz. They can take that. Um, let's see what else. So I think, and then, there's always the option of doing, I do individual coaching. I can do group group coaching. I can do workshops and, come out and talk to companies or, different things like that. So this is kind of like my official launch tonight.
And you're going to have this coaching community on the IHA Learning Management System.
Yes, it will be on the IHA Academy, and Vera's already got me talked into doing an article for the next magazine.
Excellent.
Yep, and then I'll also be putting together some classes that we can put on the IHA Academy as well, some self-directed classes and some things like that. So there's a lot going on. It's all exciting and it's going to be a lot of fun.
So to finish up, what I'd like to do is if anyone out there has a question for Dr. Vicki about emotional intelligence, then type it in and she will answer it. We have about 10 minutes, so you have a 10-minute window. And thanks again for being here tonight. We are looking forward to seeing you all in the future. And don't forget, Dr. Vicki is giving anyone watching this broadcast or watching this recorded video free access for a month to her coaching community.
But it's nice to have the opportunity for this forum, though.
Absolutely. So while I'm waiting for questions to pop up, what are some of the steps that a person can take to stop going into a negative default emotion?
Not going to a default what?
A default emotion.
Oh, a default emotion.
Yeah.
It's like I said earlier, I think awareness. The big thing is that it's like, oh, let me see. The only example that comes to my mind is like, if you walk over to a stove and the burner is hot and you put your hand on it, it's hot and you pull it away. Mm-hmm. So as you practice going up your, and it can be a feeling thermometer. It doesn't have to be, just an anger thermometer. That's really good. But as you start to increase your awareness and that you're getting to that hot zone, you just need to stop right there. You can take a break. You can, if you're in a heated discussion, you can say, oh my gosh, I'm like at number 7 on my anger thermometer and I need to just chill. So walk away, take 5 minutes to compose yourself, go do some deep breathing, take a walk around the house, whatever you need to do. Same thing, anxiety, as you feel your anxiety going up, do some relaxation. Different things. It all depends. It's different things for everybody else. It's awareness, identify what you're feeling, know where you're going on, on the scale, and then learn coping things, what to do, how to cope with those emotions when they get to be big.
And you're going to help people to do that in your coaching community and help them understand those steps. So I have another question for you. What do you do with people who have an anger problem and don't think they do?
Oh boy, I truly think that people have to want to help themselves. Mm-hmm. It's tough, certainly it can be, sort of say, I think, that might be an issue for you. I think, it could be that, the anger feelings get big. But if someone doesn't recognize it and if they don't think it is, then I don't know. I just think it's hard because it's so much work to change. It's so much work um, to create a different us. Like to create a different me. like learning to, like when I was learning to have to, you know, rein in my energy, with my horses. That's a lot of work. And I have to, it's like, look, me learning to look at that young woman going, oh, show me where it is again, because I just don't see it. You know, it takes work and it takes willingness. And, it's not fun. It's not pretty sometimes, but it's so worth it. So if someone isn't aware that they have an anger problem, well, that's kind of, you can't change them. It's just like, the only person we really have any control over is ourselves.
Right.
Right. We can change ourselves. We can decide, well, I'm just not going to react to that anger. We can choose how we want to respond, but we can't really change someone else, if that makes sense.
Yes, it actually does. So I have another question. A lot of great questions tonight. So this person knows that the person they're talking to is taking advantage of them, and they get angry at them because of it. What should they do?
Okay, so it's like, who's trying to take advantage of who?
Well, the person getting angry feels that the person they're speaking to is trying to take advantage of them.
Okay, so they're getting angry because someone's trying to take advantage of them.
Yeah.
Then we do a module on assertiveness. Um, you know, it's self-awareness. I mean, there's so many things in that one. There's boundaries. There's self-awareness. There's anger and irritation. Maybe we're getting angry because you know we really care what that person thinks and we don't want to hurt their feelings and they're very nice to us and all of those things. It's so complicated. There can be so many feelings in that situation. And then it's like, I mean, it's a perfect example for emotional intelligence because what if you know I mean, there's so many things to take into consideration. I don't want to say something, maybe I don't want to hurt their feelings because it's a loved one, but I still want to, stand up for myself and say something. And I mean, it's so complicated. So you'd almost have to really consider the situation and just take it, the situation itself into consideration because, well, do I need to um, say something for myself or do I, and then how do I say something? So it could be very, very complicated. So I don't think there's one pat answer to that one.
But what I'm hearing you say is standing up for yourself in a tactful way is very important.
Which is assertiveness
Yeah.
and boundaries.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into it, and then it depends the part of emotional intelligence. Well, you want to say it in a nice way that's going to take the other person's feelings into consideration.
Right.
Maybe they don't know that they're trying. Are they intentionally trying to take advantage of you, or is that just them? The way that they operate. So you still want to be considerate of their feelings. So it's so complicated. Relationships are so complicated. People are so complicated.
They are.
But I love it.
So I have a question from Nancy Richmond. So if we learn to push through fearful situations through mental tasks, ? We can change our brain? ?
I don't know if I'd consider it a task. I think difficult situations, depending upon the situation, I think the first thing we can do is learn to identify what we're feeling in a difficult situation and then choose what to do with it. We can certainly learn and practice. It's like, when horses are learning, they have okay, now we'll have to give me some input from Farah, I think, if she's listening. But I think we have the red zone where horses don't learn. We have the yellow zone where they do learn. And then they have the green zone where they're like super comfortable and chilled and, things like that. So what we want to do as we're learning these things and as we're like expanding our emotional intelligence, we want to move out of the green zone where we're super comfortable and go into the yellow zone. We're kind of stretching our boundaries, but we want to stay away from the red zone. So as we're learning and growing, maybe we will practice like homework or practice thinking about things, something like that. I do love homework. I do give a lot of homework. I love people to think. Um, as we're working through that, and then part of it is as we think about things, to have a plan, so that if we know that we're going to be into a challenging situation before we even go into it, we'll have done our homework and done our thinking about it, so that we can have a plan when we enter that situation, going, okay, well, if this is going to happen, then I'm going to do that. And that's not all that much different than what we do with our horses when we take them out there and we say, well, okay, today we're going to do this, and if you react this way, I'm going to do that, and if you react this way, I'm going to do that. So we can get into challenging situations by practicing, by thinking ahead of time. In sports psychology, people do these lot of run-throughs of, they can, football guys go down the field and they imagine in their brain catching a football, and their brain, and there's some research out there that says that catching that football in your brain is the same as to almost catching it in person. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that exactly answers the questions, but it's an idea, to how to start to think about it.
Preparation is very important, especially if you know the kinds of things you might be asked or have to do. Then you can practice in your head what you will do or say in those situations. Well, it is 1 minute till the hour, so we want to thank you again for being here tonight with us, Vicki, and we hope everyone here has learned a little bit more about emotional fitness and helping themselves this evening. So if you would, just wrap it up for us, Vicki.
Okay, and then you'll be able to hit the button, right?
I will hit the button.
Okay, and then let's hear. So I want to remind everybody to how do you want emails? Do you want those on? If everybody can just enter their email in the comment section.
They can do that, or they can send an email to info@internationalhorsemanship.org, and they will receive a 1-month free invitation to your coaching community.
Right. And you can also go to my website at www.drvickijohanneck.com, and maybe we can post that somewhere, or I can do a link or something.
We'll post that on the Facebook page.
Not everybody knows how to spell my last name, so that's a challenge. So anyway, excited. I'm so excited to be a part of the IHA. It's crazy how many correlations there are between horses and humans, and such both avenues for potentials for learning about ourselves, working with the horses, and work that we can learn to apply to each other. And it's just so fun. Like if we aren't learning, we aren't growing. And so we all want to grow, and the IHA, coaching, it all gives us an opportunity for growth. So I want to thank everybody for being here tonight and putting up with all of our technical things. We're all learning. We're all stretching our comfort zones. We're pushing that red zone, but we're in the yellow. So anyway, I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight. Thanks for listening, and we will see you soon. Okay? Okay, bye.